Hello, and welcome to the Save Our Children podcast. We're your hosts, Becky and Bridget. We are officially starting season 2, and we are so blessed to have our favorite advocate and podcast host, Emma, with us today, along with our boys. To start our new season, we're going to talk about discussing some symbolism, talking about propaganda that we see all over the place. We've talked about that on our podcast, both of our podcasts, a bunch, but we're actually going to break it down, show some examples, and talk about with the boys really some of the stuff that they've seen in their lives and on TV. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited to have this conversation with you guys. Can you believe that we are at a year already? 52 plus episodes. What an awesome year. Thank you, boys, for joining us. And Emma, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
What an honor. Congratulations, you guys. Woohoo!
Thanks for joining us too. Super excited.
Absolutely.
We did it.
Yes. What do you boys think about your mom and one of her best friends doing a podcast for a whole year?
I know. It feels like crazy that you've been doing it for a whole year, but like on the other side of me that doesn't care. I don't care.
They don't care.
Exactly me. I do not care. Like, congratulations, but I don't
care. Well, at least I raise Anna's voice.
That's how neat, though. You guys have got to be on podcasts. That's something that you'll have forever. You know, it'll be neat one day to look back on all of this and be like, look what my mom did. My mom was pretty cool whenever I was young.
Yeah. Well, and it'll be cool. Like, I actually was thinking about it when we were getting started. Like, I should go look back at that video or whatever and see what we recorded and see what a year looks like, just different in what they look like a year later.
Back at your first video.
Oh yes.
I just personally
rewatch this episode.
So neat. Like, I remember when we first started talking about you guys doing a podcast, and you guys are like, I couldn't do a podcast. I'm not going to do what are you talking about? You know, and it's so neat just to see. It's like a business for you guys, you know. Now it's not something you question. It's not something you have reservations about. Like, you're confident, you know what you're doing in a whole year. Like, I was reading statistics. There's a very small percentage of podcasters that even make it past 10 episodes.
Wow.
I mean, I had a friend who literally, I asked what he was going to do after school. And he said, oh, I'm probably going to make a podcast about cookies. And I was like, okay.
About cookies?
Yes, because he's in the podcast club.
Oh, there you have a podcast club?
Yes, I'm not even joking.
Bridget, we could run the podcast club.
Payne. There's a lot of clubs at Payne. Yeah. Some of them are cool. Some of them are lame.
Right, and like the podcast club.
We need to start one of those.
Start him young. Hey.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you just got to find a teacher to like sponsor it, and that's it. You go after.
I'd love to know for you guys, Connor and Peyton, what are some things you might not care that your mom's doing a podcast, but you guys have learned a lot on this journey. What are some things in your mind that you've learned just through your mom, through doing the podcasting, and how has that affected your life differently than before you knew this stuff?
It's made me It's made me less be on like the edge of a cliff, and like before I just didn't care.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool, whatever. And now I'm just like, oh, look.
You see all the stuff now.
Squirrel.
Basically how I feel. Exactly.
You're not annoyed by it?
No, not really.
They were super annoyed when I first started.
Oh yeah.
I remember when we first.
You're ruining everything.
My life is going into crumbles.
My childhood
has died.
Things
you
we
see.
It's so true. They're like, really? You have to ruin that? Like, is everything tied to trafficking?
And the best part, I think the best part is Connor was the most annoyed where I would be watching something like, did you see that? Did you see that? And now he will be watching something. He's like, Mom, come in here. And he'll pause and be like, look at this and look at that. And he catches it even more than I do more often. That he's really good. Big brain. Yeah.
I mean, most of the things that we watch on Disney XD are just mainly about that. So,
well, yeah, some of the stuff's pretty weird in and of
exactly
itself.
like Gravity Falls.
Yeah, a lot of the weird shows. But you'll even notice it in other stuff. You'll see things or whatever. And so the cool thing is that, and what we're going to get into is that if you know it and you see it, you're not impacted by it, because you don't end up, you catch it and you're like, wait a minute, that sounds like that's the agenda they're trying to push. And so then you see it and you can like kind of go by it.
So there's a commercial that's like all the friends from like when you were little or something about Disney Junior. There's a new Alice in Wonderland thing.
See, they know. Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, you ruined that freaking movie for us. Like,
it wasn't a good movie anyway.
No, but that's used in MK Ultra.
Sing 2?
Oh yeah, Sing 2 starts with Alice in Wonderland.
Interesting.
I can't watch any movie without being like,
right. But isn't that funny looking at things now? Like how long of, we're adults. You guys are so lucky to know this stuff whenever you're young, but doesn't it make you pay attention more to what you're looking at instead of just looking at it one-dimensionally and just accepting it? Now it's like, you look at what's behind the character, you look at what's on the buildings, you look at what the character's wearing, you look at the symbols that they might be wearing, or the patterns on their clothes, or the patterns around them, or designs or decorations that they have, and I think that's really empowering, because for so long, I mean, we've gone practically our whole lives up until this point, just being so conditioned to seeing all of that there was never a question. Isn't that neat now that you guys can actually have that awareness where you're not stuck in the show one-dimensionally, you're looking at it now 3D and being able to say, oh, I know what that is, and I know what that is.
I'm more excited for a show to come out. I'm like, okay.
So you can see what's in it.
Yeah, like some of the episodes that we've seen that like I've already saw, and you're like,
I mean, sorry.
Like I don't really watch what's happening. I just look in the background for all the stuff.
Because you already know what's going to happen in the plot line.
But it's also mainly the Halloween episodes that we can see.
Oh yeah, that's all creepy stuff too.
Oh, for sure.
We talked about that.
Yeah, could you imagine like if we knew the stuff that they knew at their age? Like for us, once we found it all out, it's like our world was flip upside down, and we're just like, man, you just shattered our whole reality. But them, they get to learn it so young, and picking it apart is actually cool. You guys were annoyed with this at first, so was Adrina. And then now it's like, let me screen record this, or pause, let me go show my mom. So it's cool, even though you guys first were like, oh, really? Now you guys are like, hey, look at this, look at this. So it's fun to see.
And as much as I very much dislike Disney and ends up that for like a family trip, we're going to go there, I'm equally as excited to go, because I'm equally as excited to be like, what did I not see all of the other times that I have been there?
I'm just trying to like,
We're gonna be like
have pictures in my mind. I'm trying to remember what's at Disney. Like, is there something I didn't see?
I'm sure it's not blatant. I don't think that it's probably right on your face, but I'm sure that there will be things that it's like, oh, I didn't see that looked like that, or, oh, I didn't know that was that way. So we'll have to do an episode on Becky's trip to Disney and see what happened.
Yes. But that's what's neat. Like the way that it's impacted your kids, that's the whole purpose of your show, is you're demonstrating that in your own families, that's what you want to pass on to the listeners, like to think that your 2 homes, that's 3 kids that now will be forever changed, and they'll never be able to look at the world the same. They look at it different than 99% of kids, and as more and more people are watching your podcast, you're giving them that gift to where now there's other moms watching Disney movies, pausing it and being like, do you know what I just saw? Let me explain to you what this means. Exactly. And so you're growing, even if these people aren't telling you directly. That's the impact that you're having, is now parents can't look at the things that their children see the same anymore either. And now you're giving them the language, the words to use, and the explanations that they get to now explain to their kids in an age-related manner. And so you're changing generations, which just gives me chills to think about, because I love that you guys are demonstrating it in your own homes, and like your kids are a testament to that. And they're even saying that, I was once annoyed and now I can see all these things. And that's really like, that's the coolest gift that you guys have on this show, is you're giving that to somebody else so they can change their family from the inside out, and it's like the gift that just keeps giving. Then their kids will teach their kids. And it's like, you're breaking generational curses through a podcast. Like, how freaking cool is that?
Hell yeah.
I don't know.
I'm
Get out of here.
That's offensive. Not to me. No.
Everything's offensive these days. You guys
For
are.
sure.
So Emma, do you want to show, I know you had a video or you had a website that you found that has some of the symbolism of like the things that we talk about. Cause I want to give our listeners and the folks watching this video, I want to give them an idea like, yes, the pentagram means this, the all-seeing eye is this. This is what these sort of things mean. And then I want to talk about, because I have some examples too of where you would see it, because it's in our face way more than you ever would think. And we have to start listening to the propaganda and their agenda so we can start hearing where these things are. And so I think it'd be cool, unless Bridget, you have something else, I think it'd be cool to kind of start with like, what are we even looking at with symbolism?
Absolutely. That's so important. It's just like what we were saying. How many things do we walk by that now that you're awakened to it, you look at it and say, how did I never ask a question about that? That's a really weird thing to see over and over and over again, you know? And so it literally changes your world from the inside out just to see these different things. So I'll bring up a couple on my screen and then we can corroborate with the stuff that you have, Becky, and you girls can chime in. I'd love to even hear too, if the kids have seen some of these symbols in some of their TV shows, or if some of them look familiar to you guys. So you guys let me know. I'm going to bring up 1 second. Let me bring up the right screen on here. Okay, so I found this really cool website that allows me to share multiple symbols and meanings at the same time. Let me move. Okay, so we'll start here, and there's a lot. So there's, I mean, as you can see, there's a video called Top 10. There's hundreds of symbols. So you could spend, you know, a whole lifetime really researching all of these and still not get caught up on, you know, all of them. There's so many. This dates back so long where these signs and symbols came from. But really, there's a hidden language that's communicated all the time to us that we're not consciously aware of. And these symbols may not have a meaning to us. It may not be something that even we agree with. It might not even be a belief system that we can comprehend. But the important thing for people is to realize that there are groups of people that this is their entire world. These symbols are how they communicate more than they do with words. And that has nothing to do with our beliefs, but we have to understand that there's people that this is their belief system, whether or not we like it, whether we agree with it, whether or not we even want to take in these beliefs ourselves. There's people that depend on these and they're constantly showing us. So one of the things that Satan is known for is he has to tell his agenda somehow. And so because words, if somebody were to just come out and say what these things mean, it would really affect society. People would understand that these things are evil. So what they do is they take certain symbols and they hide them in propaganda, music videos, movies, magazine covers, everywhere that you look, advertisements, and they're made in such a way that you almost overlook them because they're so blended in, and you end up seeing them so many times that you become conditioned to them. So this one here, the all-seeing eye, and actually I'll just go back a page real quick because this will show a little bit of some of the definitions. So there's a couple different eye symbols. The all-seeing eye in a pyramid, that's one that's seen on the dollar bill. And there's a lot of other places where you'll see a pyramid. It's known as kind of the Illuminati symbol. It's also something that you'll see celebrities or people doing this triangle over their face or in the camera. And it's really meant for this. So it's basically the all-seeing eye floating in a capstone over a 13-step unfinished pyramid is the most popular symbol. You don't always see it over another pyramid, but you will see the all-seeing eye pyramid floating. And it's definitely a very common symbol. So it represents the Illuminati ruling from their position on the capstone of the pyramid. So really they're mocking us and saying, we're showing you that we rule on top of you. You're underneath us and we're on top. And so we look at it and we almost overlook it. But really, that's what their message is to us. And it's not said in words, so we kind of look over it. So this website I'll give to these girls so they can post it in their show notes. But I'm just going to scroll down and just show a couple of things historically that that where you can see it. Our dollar bill again, and it makes also a pentagram, which we'll look at. And then there's some other all-seeing eye or eye symbols that we will go to also right after this. So that's really a main one. And it's probably for them the most important because it really shows like they're the ones that rule. And then there's a couple other eyes. So the all-seeing eye, just the floating one, this is the one I was just talking about. It's usually on the left side. Sometimes you'll see it different. And there's actually some survivors that do cool decodes that show like the direction of where it goes, but essentially the all-seeing eye just floating by itself, it can be seen in media. So here's, looks like Lady Gaga. Yep. Lady Gaga video. There's an Eminem, all-seeing eye and pyramid on a, looks like a music video that he had. There is Liv Tyler doing it, Kesha. So, I mean, it's really blatant that they do this. As you can see, it's so obvious. But at the same time, if you're just looking at a magazine cover, you're watching a video, some of these things happen so quick that it's an unconscious symbol. Your unconscious mind sees it. Your conscious mind kind of blocks it out or is desensitized to it. And a lot of magazine covers look like what Liv Tyler does here, very obvious. And we just look at it like, oh, a cute modeling pose. But to them, they're telling us something here. SpongeBob. So our children are getting exposed to this. There's a couple episodes that are showing the all-seeing eye pyramid, whether it's with the pyramid on top of it or just it's on a toy shelf basically in this other episode. Harry Potter, here's Lady Gaga and Beyonce again in a music video. There is the seeing eye logo with a company, Disney's Treasure of the Lost Lamp pyramid. And these things, like I said, they happen so quick. So it's not something that we see and it's something that we pick up on. It's usually happening in the background or it's happening to an extent that we're not paying attention. And that's done deliberately. That way it's an unconscious symbol.
And it's not blatant all the time. Like the marble symbol it looks like a triangle. You don't think anything of it until you start putting it all together like, oh, okay.
Yes. And it can really say a lot too for a company, for example, of, who is actually running that company or who started that company and why did they choose that specific logo the way that it is, from the font to the way that they do it. And I'm going to bring up a couple other ones. I'm going to go to this main page again. So we have the all-seeing eye, Baphomet. So you'll see also Baphomet is one of the pagan idols that they worship, and it's most prevalent in Hollywood. But you'll see that one where a lot of celebrities will put up kind of their two fingers, and if you look at the other two fingers on the other hand, they're usually pointed down. So it's kind of this as above, so below type thing. And then there's more pyramids, snakes, suns, eagles, and I'm actually going to bring up this little video and just show you guys a couple of the other symbols that are very prevalent that we are so desensitized to seeing. So I'm going to do this, and I marked a couple spots on my phone that I'm going to fast forward this to. So let me pause here. All right, how do I tell where the time is? Oop. Okay, 3:44, let's go to 9:20. Okay, so right after here.
And even in architectural design. Number 4.
Oops, sorry, you guys, my computer's a little bit slow, I think.
The pentagram.
So here's the pentagram.
The sigil of Baphomet is usually depicted with 2 points up.
Oh my gosh, this is so slow. Okay, the video is loading really slow.
Indicating Satan's horns.
So as you can see, the pyramid or the pentagram, it's made of 2 pyramids and it signifies a demon basically. And you can see a pentagram all over society. It's constantly thrown in our faces. And a lot of times if it's satanic, it's going to be upside down. So that's how you can kind of tell if it's one of those symbols that is satanic. But you really don't see them any other way. I'm going to rewind just to this little screen. Here's some.
Connor was going to call this one out for you. He knew this answer.
Oh, did he?
The 666 on the monster can. Yep.
Yes. And I mean, there's the Google symbol. Oop. Let's see if this will load a little bit.
British telecom giant Vodafone, whose logo is remarkably similar to the KKK. The number of
So there's a couple of that. And then there's the all-seeing eye. Again, you can see that a number of different ways. And the interesting thing, let me take this screen share off real quick. I'm going to show with my own hands. So the 666 symbol is typically characterized like this, and they'll put it over their eye, and the 3 fingers up is supposed to signify 3 different sixes. So this makes the 1 6, the finger goes up, and then it corroborates with the other 2 fingers, and you'll see it all different ways people will do it, or they'll even hold it in front of them. They'll do something with it where it's on their body, but typically they'll put it over their eye or around their eye, and it signifies the 3 sixes. And that's something that's always thrown in our face that we don't pay attention to.
Yeah, because they've made it okay. Like, this means okay, but then, so when you see like, yeah, they're doing this, now it's, and again, one of the biggest things, and we talk about this all the time, is the intention. Now, if you see someone say, yeah, okay, I got it, they're not 666ing you. They're telling you, okay, like, just be aware that more than likely, if it's something that you're seeing on the cover of Time magazine, if you're seeing something in a movie, you'll start to see those things, but your neighbor is probably not doing it to you.
I mean, you never know.
You do never know.
But that's why people have a hard time believing it, because a lot of these symbols, they've been inverted. So they have a meaning that society accepts. Okay, or even this. People will be like, oh, that's just, I think there's like a sign in Texas, like one of the, it's like, let's rock on. And then there's also a college where that's like,
hook 'em horns. This is I love you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, this is hook 'em horns. Longhorns, Texas Longhorns. Yeah.
And so there's people like, oh, they're not doing something satanic. That's not devil horns. That's this. Let's rock on, or that's, whatever else it is. It's been inverted satanically, and it means something different to them. So even if, like Becky said, it doesn't mean just because everybody, you could see 100 people do that, it doesn't mean all of them are satanic, but it does mean pay attention to how it's used, who's using it, and the intention behind it. Is that actually what they mean, or are they communicating something differently with us?
Yeah, and a lot of times it's simple things. So I only happen to, not an ad, have a body armor like bottle next to me, but you'll see that it'll be like this. And so again, you're like, oh, they're just advertising this is a great drink. No, they're covering one of their eyes to show you whatever. And so you'll
see it with the Kardashians with their perfumes, and a lot of celebrities use perfumes or makeup lines.
Yes.
Even like Star Wars, for example, because my family's a big Star Wars fan. The main thing has the lightsaber going through one eye. So you only ever see one eye. It's everywhere. It's more often than not something in an ad. The other thing, Emma, I don't know if they have it on there, but the vow of silence. Do they have anything about that on that website?
Let's see.
While she pulls that up, that's funny that you have body armor next to you too.
I know, right? Oh my God.
Show up in green or with body armor today.
100%. And even how Becky was saying, like, we were talking before here just about what's in kids shows, you know what I mean? And like looking at
examples there. Yep.
Yeah. If you want to bring some of those up, I can look for the one that you're talking about.
Okay. So some of the stuff actually that Emma was just talking about, I have taken screenshots either from like someone, the boys are like, wait a minute, look at this, or whatever we're doing. So I want to, let's see if I can just trying to think what, okay. So we'll start with this one. I really just want it to be, no, we'll do this. We'll start here. So this is one of the shows. It's called Gravity Falls. It's actually a very interesting show.
It's cute.
It's all, but only because we know what it's all about. So Gravity Falls is literally about this crazy uncle who you can see it as.
It's about the kids going on adventures and like finding random monsters and stuff like that.
Okay, I guess I'm not telling it correctly.
I'll tell it. Okay. So the first episode, the girl and her brother got sent, well, not really sent, went on like vacation with their uncle.
Great uncle.
Or grumpy uncle, whatever.
It's great uncle.
Whatever. And then there's like, it's a place in Oregon, I don't even know if it's real, called Gravity Falls. And like, there's like weird, like.
It's all the land of like conspiracy theory is what it's all about.
There's like
so
there's three journals with, there's three journals and all the journals has 6 fingers on it because that's his
brother has 6
yeah,
fingers.
his brother has 6 fingers, I guess.
Okay.
And as you can see in the photo on the carpet, there's the Illuminati. Then like the case to the right
the eye.
has the eye thingy.
Yep.
And then when he's like giving tours to the people, he wears an eye patch.
Yep. So he always has one eye. Yep. And what are the people, what are the Shriners? They are, so he has a Shriner, well, what would be Shriner's hat, but Shriners talk about Lucifer and how he is the god of light and he does all of these things. And so it's not exactly what you're thinking. The show's cool knowing like what it is because it talks about zombies and talks about weird aliens and all these different things, gnomes, like all the different things and even stuff that's very conspiracy theory, but they bring it up to you and they act like, oh, that's not real, but that's kind of,
it is.
Yeah,
half of it.
One in it's the same.
I mean, some of the episodes are just fine. Like they don't. I mean, they'll have things in it, but like the actual.
It's crazy that for kids that young, that this is that they're saying we rule you. Like they're blatantly putting an eye in a pyramid and communicating that to children.
Yep. And so was it this show that had the hopscotch?
Hopscotch.
So there was one of the shows that Connor stopped me and they actually had a hopscotch on it, but actually, obviously the shape of the hopscotch is oftentimes a cross. Like if you did 10 spaces, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. Well, this one, the way that it was angled was actually upside down. So instead of drawing it across like you normally would, if you were to see it, that the kids jump on it, they specifically angled it so that it would be upside down. And Connor's like, that's an upside down cross. And it was supposed to just be hopscotch. Or like there's one that said, I heart kids, but they.
Oh, yeah. The Woodstick Festival.
And it said, I eat kids.
Because one of the 2 letters fell off of the balloon.
So they play it. So it's like, it's not really anything, but then it is.
And also, if you go upstairs, like in one of the episodes, for example, like the zombie episode with the hopscotch and stuff. No, not the zombie, the gnome one.
Mm-hmm.
There's like in the window, it's all red, and then with the Illuminati in it,
it's just a triangle.
There's also an eye in it.
Oh, whatever. Oh. But also, there's a video where one of the characters does this.
Oh, good.
Because he's talking about like the blind eye.
Mm.
The Society of the Blind Eye.
Is this supposed to be like his living room or something? Do you see maps on the?
So I didn't even notice that it's his gift shop, but that's a very interesting when we pull up the FBI and what all that means, what maps mean, because that's one I didn't even notice, Bridget. You can sit here and look at this and be like, I didn't even know that said that. That's crazy.
Why is there a hand? There's also a hand in a bottle.
He like random. He literally like.
Oh yeah, all of these up here, like all the.
It's just random.
Yeah, body parts. Mm-hmm.
They put a head of a fox on a chicken once and just glued it together, and they just called it something random.
So that tells you what they're doing in the undergrounds.
What else was I say?
Oh. So one of the other things, do you want to add something to this? Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, this place is like behind the employees only is like
Actual house.
Yeah, it's a house, and then I don't know how it all works. It looks way too small, but like right there's a gift shop, and then somewhere in the house, I think it might be upstairs or something. There's like attractions that they're like.
Oh, you can go see through all of like the cool
I'll
things.
just say one. Oh God, the corn.
Oh, it's like a unicorn.
Made
It's
out
a
of
unicorn
corn.
made out of
It's
corn.
a unicorn made out of corn.
Okay.
I was tired.
Anyway, they're losing their mind. They're tired too. But the other thing in that they talk about is portals. So his brother got lost in a portal, and so all of those different things too. And so it's very, once you kind of, it's one of those, if you know, you know, otherwise it's like, oh, that's kind of a cute little show. Doesn't make any sense, but whatever. But it's actually ridiculous. The other thing that I saw, and this is kind of what sparked this entire kind of conversation, was on the Disney Channel. They have a bunch of nonsense toys and crap that they're trying to sell to their kids, but this is one of the ads that they have. Can you see the Target ad? So this is what they're selling. And the very first thing you see is the covered eye, the all-seeing eye. And so this is what is really important. Like, it's not just in little places. It's not just off to the side. It is in our face all the time. And we have to start really looking for it. So the idea behind this episode is, do you see these things that are happening to us? Are you hearing these things that are going on? And one of the biggest things that they're trying to sell us right now is, and I actually have another some images, but I want to show this video, that this whole vegan diet, everybody has to go vegan. Nobody can have any meat because, the world's ending, or I don't know, because Mr. Gates himself owns all of the land and wants us not to do anything and all that stuff. And so I was watching a show, it's a reality show. It's not really anything. I'm not big into it, but one of the families who's a very southern family, and they're really just like fried chicken, not to be stereotypical, but that's kind of the family they are. And all of a sudden they're like, Grandma needs us to eat vegan, so we're going to start eating vegan. And it's like, that doesn't even make sense in the show. Like, what are you talking about? And so I started really paying attention to, okay, what's really happening here and what are we doing? And I came across, we're going to go back to that stuff, so we'll be back. Came across this super random Voya commercial that I put it right at the spot that is, it's really short. But even in this small commercial, we hear vegan and we hear plant-based burgers or something.
Oh, Dad, the twins are now vegan.
I know. I got them some of those plant burgers. Nice. Yeah. Voya provides guidance for the right investment.
So it's literally a financial commercial, and we are seeing that they're bringing in that term. So again, it's those terms that they want us to hear repeatedly. So we start to think, oh yeah, that's the cool thing to do. And I mean, if you want to be vegan, go right ahead, but.
That's what I was going to say. Like, we don't have anything against people who do choose that lifestyle, but there's a deep agenda of why the government and commercials push it that are different from most people's personal moral ethics. There's a lot to look into with that. And we can probably cover that on another episode too. But it's like Becky said, there's a reason why things make it mainstream, and it's not to discredit. Some people have dietary issues. They have to be vegan, or some people have moral issues, but there's an agenda behind why that is being pushed so hard on the public. All of a sudden, you will own nothing and you will be happy and you will eat crickets.
And some people think they're eating vegan, but really there's so much additives and soy to it that if you really knew what you're eating, like cough, cough, Beyond Meat, and what's really in them, you wouldn't be eating it. It's all marketing. Half the time it's just another label slapped on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so my last thing that I want to share, because this is like the new big thing, and like I said, I'm not, the boys watch Disney. We only we really watch it to pay attention to this stuff. But one of the things I just watched, Encanto, very cute movie. Actually, I thought it was very well done, super cute, whatever. As I'm watching it, I see, I'm just going to pull up the wrong picture, but I'll show you in a minute. I see her dress. And Emma, this will be again, the symbols that you're pulling up. But as you can see, the symbol in the bottom is the FBI symbol for a term child lover. There's boy lover, girl lover, little boy lover, like all of these things are out there. And we look at it and many people look at it and it's like, oh, that's just a butterfly. Yeah, I guess it is just a butterfly, except it's literally drawn exactly the same way as the child lover symbol. Now she's got other butterflies on her shirt and you can see different things. That doesn't look like that at all. And so there's butterflies, but then you go again. And if you see monarchs, well, monarch is MK Ultra. That's the symbol for that. Again, is every butterfly you ever see a bad thing? No, not at all. But when you consider what and who Disney is, and then you look at what they're doing, like Emma said, they're talking to these people. They have all this stuff set and ready to go because they know that that's what people are going to be, these evil people are going to be looking for.
100%. And it's so innocent, you know, butterflies, everybody loves butterflies, and that's the thing that's so sad about this is they've taken, even from foods, I'll bring up on my screen what you were just talking about, Becky, with just these symbols. You know, these things can look really harmless, but if you pay attention to logos and you pay attention to signs, you pay attention to things that you drive by on the street, or you pay attention to businesses that you drive by, you see these mixed in, and it's like Becky said, they look oddly similar to these specific versions of these symbols, identical almost. The pedophile swirl, you can see that all the time on things, and it looks different. Sometimes it can be like an actual circle. Other times it's a little more triangular shaped. The butterfly, this girl lovers logo, the double heart. There's brands that literally have that as their
Good Humor. Good Humor has the heart, and then Voodoo Donuts has that little boy lover in the swirl of their main donut.
Justin Trudeau, he has the boy lover logo as his actual logo for his nonprofit. So these things, it seems very simple. It seems so innocent. And that's why it's so deceptive, because again, pedophiles can't go around announcing that they're pedophiles. They wouldn't survive in public. Their abusive nature would be exposed. They need to communicate in a way that the public overlooks and doesn't think anything of. And what better way than like cute little symbols that people don't pay attention to. And then there's also, let's bring this one up. I'll zoom in a little bit.
Here's the map part.
Yes. So Bridget was saying maps. So maps means a minor attracted person. And that is what pedophiles are working hard, not just within their communities, but through legislation, state legislation, national legislation. They don't want to be known as pedophiles anymore. They want to be known as minor attracted persons, and for us to accept them as that, because pedophile to them is an offensive word and they don't find their attraction offensive, which we know better and we completely disagree. Yes. So here are some common, and again, it's sad because these are terms used so much. It's just like seeing the okay symbol. It's when does it mean this and when doesn't it? Right. But we know the pizza GATE scandal, and that revolved around children. And is it any coincidence that that scandal happened at a pizza parlor? You know, and pizza parlors have been historically known to, not all of them again, but there's a reason why some people might start a pizza business versus another business. And these words, hot dogs, pizza, cheese, chicken pasta, sauce, handkerchief, ice cream, walnut, map, like these seemingly innocent objects and foods, they might be very common to us and something that is almost nostalgic. But to people that are pedophiles, these can be very specific codes to preferences. We've heard of specific political figures ordering $60,000 in hot dogs and pizza. Like, why were they ordering that much money in hot dogs and pizza? I forget which one it was. It might have just been one of those, but either way, that's very odd, but the public doesn't think anything of it. So they just say, oh, cool. They're having just a big pizza party. A survivor I interviewed, she was an MK Ultra victim, and one of her duties was to deliver pizzas back and forth from country to country. And it was a code word, but that was what she said that they had to call it, you know? So these can be very specific and very dangerous. And it's really good for us just as a society to understand them. Because even though you go to a 4th of July party, just because people are serving hot dogs, it doesn't mean they're pedophiles. But it's a good indicator. If you hear this, if you're passing by somebody you don't know, if it happens to be on an Instagram post of some adult is posting something weird about his preference with hot dogs, you know, it's just something to keep an eye out, and it can give you clues and indicators that are typically just, we're very unconscious to.
Yeah. And again, a lot of times we'll see celebrities with it. And that's really where a lot of this comes from, is you'll be like, oh, I'm having pasta again tonight. And it's like, what is going on? And now again, you don't want to look at everything as every person is bad. Everything you see is bad. This is all whatever. But like Emma said, it really becomes, you have to take a look at the source. We know Hollywood is crazy. You have to be looking at what it means and where it is. Like there's been celebrities where all of a sudden their kid is sitting with spaghetti on them. Okay, that's a very young boy. What are we doing? Like
having parties talking about that. Like, for example, Tegan or the Kardashians, they have like, especially during Halloween, or like Kendall Jenner just happened to have a hot dog party.
Right. And it's like, why? We might think, oh, it's just funny or it's cute and coy, but is that something we pick with our families to dress up as, or to have that? Is that a common theme in society, or is that something we should be asking questions about?
Yeah. And it's not to be like, oh my gosh, like you said, you can't go to 4th of July and never have a hot dog. You can't take a picture of eating a hot dog at a game. Like that doesn't mean the same thing. But once we're able to start decoding what they're getting at, they aren't able to use it. And that's really what we want to real kind of be aware of. Is we talk about it a lot, like, oh my gosh, this symbol, or oh, that symbol. And no, it isn't going to be one for one. You will not see the FBI pedophile symbol for boy lover being this. Sometimes it gets swirly. Sometimes it gets whatever. I know in Arizona, a lot of our highways, the designs have swirls. Now, we also understand that the swirl means energy. Like I understand that, but you can't look at everything as this is okay. And you can't look at it, this is all bad, but you've got to be aware there's a both.
This happens to be next to our biggest trafficking highway, where they kidnap the kids at the mall at Arizona Mills, that runs straight to Vegas and to California. So the placement of it is pretty interesting.
MC squared.
100%. And I'll go back to here. I want to bring up real quick on my screen just a couple examples of logos that like are super obvious of what it is. So here's like the good humor one, what Becky was talking about. This isn't really the best view of it, but you can see like the heart, it's the same heart.
Yep.
That you see. And if you look down the page,
It's a quarter one.
Out of this, I'll just let people kind of look. Like there's logos that seem to have very interesting pizza. It's shaped just pedophile symbol, Comet pizza. I mean, you can look up things and just understand that it's right in your face, and it's something that they don't even try to hide. Even like in Disney movies, let's see if I can bring this up.
Yep.
go on his face and his arms.
Yep.
Well, in the movie Moana, yeah.
That's
Even-
from
Even on Disney Plus, Moana, where the little girl's coming out of a oven talking about pizza and watching the walls and the nudity on the walls.
well,
Yeah.
even in Moana, the Rock has a symbol on his chest.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And then what was it? Lilo and Stitch, the old version, had a child that went into a dryer for some reason and hid.
That's
then-
what it was. Lilo and Stitch. Moana has some symbolism, but Lilo and Stitch has a lot too, especially with like the Stitch being the bear and like the little stuffed animal, whatever. There's a lot of symbolism in that one too.
100%. And so just recognizing that it's empowering. You look at the world so much differently, being able to see that. And again, it's not like we're trying to scare people. It's not something where we want people, whenever they do see stuff, to be like, oh my gosh, this is a pedophile or this is this, but we have to understand that there are people, just like how we communicate with the words that we do. There are some people that communicate with symbols and signs, and these people are typically not people that we want around children, and so being able to recognize that, it just, if I see a business that has one of these symbols, maybe they didn't know what they were doing. Maybe the graphic designer created it and they didn't actually have anything to do with it, but I almost choose to just totally go away from it. I'm like, this is there's a better place down the street that I can go that doesn't have this logo and it doesn't creep me out, and so that's even, we support things by what we give our attention and money to, and being aware of that too. We can say, oh, let's maybe not support that artist because they're wearing this symbol or they're making this symbol, or let's not go to that pizza place because their logo looks like that one weird symbol. So it's also a way too that we can bring community awareness and just awareness within our family to where these things exist.
When you made a really good point when you first started, this idea that just because we don't believe it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like, we believe in God. We believe in not everybody, but many people believe in a God or some higher power. These people believe that Satan is their God. They believe that everything that we've learned, that our God is bad and that their God is good, and everything is inverted. And so they fully believe they're doing the right thing or whatever. And I was actually talking to some dads at baseball today, and I said to them that if you ever want to know kind of what side of the aisle a celebrity is on, look at their eldest child. Because if they are dead, that means they were sacrificed. Or if they're no longer the gender that they were born as, that means they were sacrificed. Those are two things that to move up in the rankings, you have to do. Let's look at our dear buddy, Will Smith, who's smacking people around. His oldest is wearing skirts. His youngest is never know what's going on with her. We have like Pink. I believe that she had a son, maybe one of the two, I don't know. Dwayne Wade, look at his child. We have Angelina Jolie, and Brad Pitt's oldest daughter is a boy. I mean, it's all of those things that are, if you ever wonder like, oh, maybe they're good or maybe they're bad, look at their kids, because they'll tell you what they did. If all of a sudden someone close to them passed away, now could they have just died? Of course they could have just died. But if all of a sudden they pass away and something good happens to them, you can pretty much guarantee or put money on the fact that they did something to make that happen.
And that's also important, because that does happen. And we just, oh, that's so sad. And it is so sad. It's so heartbreaking. But we accept that story for what it is, instead of looking deeper and maybe trying to connect some dots to see if there's a different meaning as to why that child passed away.
Bridget sent us over a video.
I thought Emma was pulling something else up.
I am something right now, but I'm going to let you guys talk while I do it.
No, and I don't know if we want to show it so that it doesn't get taken off, but there is a video. It's a video by Bad Bunny, and we'll put it in the show notes so that people can watch it if they want to watch it, but it really talks about all of the different satanic ritual abuse things that go on. There's a ton of symbolism, a bunch of really like MK Ultra stuff. So there's different levels we're dealing with. There's little kid stuff with the eye, and then it goes all the way to stuff like this. And so you can't watch videos anymore and not assume there's some other story. Even Justin Bieber's song with all of the coloring on the wall, you can go to like BitChute or go look that stuff up and look that video up. I can't think of what it's called at the top of my head. I can like sing the song, but I don't remember what it is, but they will do stills of what he's showing. And it shows him like going through his programming and things that he's dealt with. And
what do you mean?
Yeah. It's a Justin Bieber song.
It's Justin Bieber's What Do You Mean?
Yeah.
With the wall.
Well, Yummy, I think, is another one that talks about.
I don't listen to any real.
Yeah, Yummy is too. I'm looking it up. I'm pretty sure it's What Do You Mean is the one where with all the art in the background on the walls.
Where Are You Now? Where Are You Now? Mm-hmm. I had to sing the song through you. Yes, it is. Well, I mean, there's another version of it, but it's his. Is that what it is?
No, it's not Justin Bieber.
I think it is.
Bye, Marshmallow.
And I'm going to bring up one more while we're talking and while Bridget's looking for hers. So this one is really sad, but this one, it's a really disgusting symbol that is actually pretty common, that looks super innocent, and it's absolutely not. So here's one. It's called panda eyes. And celebrities will wear their makeup. Here's Lady Gaga with big black, for people who aren't looking, basically just big black circles around their eye to almost look like a panda bear. I've seen examples of, I think Jimmy Fallon or one of those late night shows had a random panda that walked out on stage during the show for no reason, did a little dance and then left, and the audience laughed, and it was random. And it's like, why would somebody make their makeup like this, for one? And why, of all animals on a stage, would somebody pick a panda? Why on these different filters, Snapchat, Instagram, why do they make a panda filter so people can take pictures of themselves with panda eyes? So panda eyes is a slang term for child sodomy. So when a child is sodomized, it breaks the blood vessels in their eyes, around their eyes, and their eyes puff up. And there's a joke basically that they mock children who have been sodomized because their eyes will literally look like panda bears. It's like they got punched in both eyes. And it's horrific. And so when you see this in Hollywood, when you see this on filters, when you see this anywhere where it's not supposed to be, ask yourself, why are they choosing to have that certain look? Why are they dressing up like a panda bear? Why is there a panda bear here? And why would somebody do their makeup like that? Is it really that they're wanting to be a panda bear? Is it, Halloween time and they're dressing up and it's actually cute and fun? Or are they mocking children who are horrifically abused, and we're sitting there almost laughing with them and thinking, oh, what a cute outfit she has, or what a cute little bear. It has a really horrific meaning. So I wanted to bring that one up too.
So Peyton saw something on Disney.
Oh, it was mainly I was just watching like Mickey Mouse shorts, and
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
And he's going to the zoo and just taking a picture of all these animals. And he goes to the new panda exhibit where they had a new baby panda. Panda's fighting him because he doesn't want to take a freaking picture. And he goes into the cage. Mickey goes into the cage, and the panda is like moving this log, and he hits his face against it, and he gets panda eyes from it.
See? Right. And again, no one thinks oh, it's just whatever. Mickey got hit with a log, but that's what they're intending.
Do you ever think about even the LOL dolls and the eyes on that, or even some of those dolls with the really big eyes, but then they use the eyeshadow to make it look like it's fashion?
Have you ever put an LOL doll in ice?
I don't buy them, but I've seen the video.
So my coworker
has them.
obviously we don't buy them. But my old coworker, her daughter had some, and she put hers in ice, and sure enough, it turned into lingerie and had all of the stuff on the underneath side of they already are skimpily dressed to begin with when you remove their clothes, and then you put them in ice, and it's got like a tramp stamp on the back. Sometimes it's got lingerie, sometimes there's symbols on them. Yeah. So if you haven't ever look that one up for our listeners, because it's crazy. And I think they had a doll where it, like, when it sat down, it was Poppy from Trolls. The button was like right between her legs, and she'd go ha 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 or whatever.
Yeah, there was a doll that had that. It's like, why? You know, and that's what's so deceptive about this is we're so conditioned as a society to just see this and accept it, and we don't have a question about it, you know. And that's what I love about what you girls are doing with your show is like, that is so empowering for a parent to know. I know, Becky, you've said like, gosh, I wish I knew all this before I became a parent, you know, but how amazing that you and Bridget can both understand this now and teach your kids at this age instead of them finding out when they're our age or even older. I mean, there's grandparents that probably have no clue that any of this, you know, they don't think twice about anything. They probably wouldn't believe it either, you know, but I can't imagine not waking up to this. What a sad thing to always allow that to be there and to never, just your awareness of it. It's almost not putting a stop to it, but it's not letting them get away with it. When you recognize and identify and point it out, you know, it's discovering them, it's exposing them, and we can choose to support it or not.
Yeah, definitely. Half of the time we're like, I couldn't imagine my brain operating like that. Like, I'll still never understand it and the whys behind it, but knowing like what we know and being able to change like and control what we allow our kids to watch and to point it out if they do watch it. Because again, if they have friends, they have family who still watch these things, they're still going to be around it. And our kids at least know and can pick it apart and know, okay, I see it, but it doesn't mean I agree with it or fully engage in it. It doesn't affect them mentally.
Have you noticed changes in your daughter too, Bridget? Have you seen her raise her level of awareness since you've started talking to her about this? And obviously she knows you do a podcast.
Definitely, especially in music too. At first, she was not happy about the whole change in like music and like, I mean, before I didn't listen to like a lot of it with her. I still controlled like that aspect of like cuss words and different things like that. But she wasn't a big Kids Bop fan or like any of that kind of music, like thankfully, because I'm like, oh, that stuff's kind of annoying.
With their Masonic symbolism of their checkerboard.
Yeah. So thankfully it wasn't any of that, but actually like finding newer independent artists. And since our podcast, she listens to a lot of that music now. And like the other day, because in their tech class, they can listen to Spotify. And so she was actually asking for Alex, Mrs. Kutcher's Spotify. She's like, what was her last name again? So I can look her up.
Birthday girl.
She really likes Tyson, and her favorite song is Channels. So I have to hear that song all the time. Which is not a bad song, so I don't mind it, but she plays that. She loves The Matrix with Bryson, and so she listens to a lot of the music I listen to now. At first she was just like, oh really? But then like she heard it a couple of times and she's like, okay, I can listen to this. So now she's like, if I don't switch it, she'll take over my aux and she'll like tell Siri to put on certain songs. So yeah, she's open to it now. And like at the beginning, it was like, you guys are annoying. You're ruining everything, ties to trafficking. You're ruining my childhood. I'll never be able to go to Disney again. Da, 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 da. And now she's like, okay, I'm okay with that. And so explaining the why has also helped, especially when it comes to social media, as she recently got caught for TikTok and creating it behind my back with her friends. So that whole thing was an issue at the beginning, but then showing her the why behind it, or like even breaking down. One morning I turned off, I think, Doja Cat and the lyrics, because she was singing it and I had the radio on, like just happened to be turning over to my Bluetooth. So she's singing the song and I'm like, what did you just say? She's like, I'm singing the song. And I'm like, do you understand what she's talking about? Like in the seduction and like the rape, like that whole culture. Do you? And so she's like, no. So I was like, okay, so we're going to do an unradio edited version. And so then we played Cardi B, WAP, which was the first time that I've ever let her listen to the unedited version, and then Doja Cat's unedited version. So we broke down the lyrics on the way to school, and she goes to an all Mormon school, and no, I'm not Mormon, but nothing against them, but just listening to Cardi B and the unedited version pulling up to an all Mormon school, it's like, she's like, Mom, really? And so she was kind of embarrassed, but I didn't have the windows down. And so we're doing a lyric breakdown of the song. And she was just like, put on the song. Like, this isn't the real song. I'm like, no, it is. You always listen to the radio edited version. And this is what she's rapping about. And this is why I don't let you listen to it. And she's like, well, everyone did a TikTok to it. That's not the song. I'm like, no, it is. And so then once she realized like what, and then me tying like the culture to it and the meaning and message behind the song and the lyrics, then she thought completely different. So then she understood the why. So that's my big thing, is making sure it's not just like, no, you can't do this because Mom said, or because of trafficking, and this is what it ties to and the message. We break down literally lyric by lyric. So yeah, that was fun.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. I wish though, like that would have maybe been a little bit embarrassing as a kid to like have your mom explain that. But like, I am just learning this now in my 30s, like what all this stuff meant, that I used to just like dance at school dances and stuff. And it's like, gosh, I wish I would have had a parent be like, Emma, what are you actually listening to? What are you watching? I think it's awesome. Not
like,
for you.
Mom, enough. Mom, I don't like, okay, you didn't have to say that word. And there's still some words where like we call it what it is. And she's like, okay, you didn't need to use that word. And she's like, enough, switch.
It is what it
well,
is.
that's essentially what you're singing. And predators like are preying on you guys for these songs, and your friends thinking it's cute to like twerk online, and you just think you're doing like these TikToks and dance moves, like subliminally, this is what you're doing. So yeah.
And there are people, like we started following a lady, I know Bridget, you sent it to me, that she used to be a detective. And so she goes around and she shows how all of these videos, like you may be thinking that you're just dancing in the hallway or doing whatever. And you are, except there are grown men who are watching young girls dancing in the hallway, and they get off on that sort of stuff. And then magically they're, hey, can I have your picture? You're really pretty. And they're all in your DMs, because we can't control what goes on the internet. And so if you don't put it out there, then it's not there to be seen. And it isn't just innocent. And that's the unfortunate part about parents, is they're just, oh, they're really famous on TikTok. Oh, they're just doing dances. You can even put your kid on the internet playing baseball, and some sick, well, I meant a lot littler than you, but yeah, some sick person is going to look at that and be like, oh my God, look at that 3-year-old boy. And he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything at all. But there are sick people that we just don't need to put out our kids out there for people. And that doesn't mean never show anything to anybody, but just be careful of who is able to see what you are putting out there.
Absolutely.
Even too, like we often talk about following like Bark and what the emojis mean and how those emojis tie to like this generation, as they don't use texting with like words, and it's a lot of short text, or they're using bemojis or emojis. So like even the noodle image and what that means, and the hourglass shape, and like the tongue, like it means one thing to you, but to this generation, it means something completely different. So even just following little apps like that, or following them on social media and learning it as a parent, educating yourself, like you're a little gas where you might say, I'm going to get gas, or that might mean gas pump to us, but to this generation, it means something completely different. And then you tie in even emojis that tie to like the drugs that they have access to at such a young age. I know in our area, there's kids who have access to heroin as young as 10 years old, and they're using Snapchat and meeting strangers, and all have different plugs is what they call them. And so the little plug emoji to them is their dealer. So little things like that, even knowing the lingo of this generation.
And we had him on, Chris McKenna from Protect Young Eyes, and he has great videos about what it means to be a parent in a digital age, and how if you as a parent would say, I can't even imagine dealing with social media as a teenager, then why are you allowing your kid social media as a teenager? Don't do it. Don't even, who cares if your kid isn't Instagram famous? Who cares if your kid isn't cool? They're going to school, they see their friends. But the problem is, I was actually talking to a mom today. The problem is that now they're trying to defend each other over social media after school, when we never had to deal with that. We just went home. That was our reprieve from having to deal with stupid people at school. And now you can't get away from any of it. And so we just like, yes, you want your kid to be cool. Yes, that's what they're doing. Yeah, but they're not ready at 10, 11, 12, 13 to deal with social media and all of the crap that comes with it. And us as parents don't want to have to monitor that the way that they use it. Not because we can't, it's hard. That's a lot of stuff we have to do. We don't have time for that crap. And so it's easier in our house. We don't use social media. We don't have anything. I mean, I have it, but
I have messages.
Well, yeah, you have Facebook messages that has nobody on it.
No, I have regular messages.
Oh, you have text messages,
Yeah.
But then again, I have Bark, like Bridget was talking about, that watches and monitors what's going on. You wanted to show a dance that you saw. You were talking about TikTok. So Connor.
It's not TikTok though. It's just a dance.
Oh, well, where's the dance come from?
I mean, it
Just
What's it called?
the gritty.
The Gritty. Bridget, have you heard of the Gritty?
Probably have.
Is this new?
If I ask my kid,
She might know, but okay,
Yeah.
show what it is.
Show the main part of it.
Okay. Okay, so with the hands, they go like with the 666, and they go like this.
I have seen this.
Go on the knee, and then they go like that.
Yes, I've seen that. I have.
What?
Especially with the vein move, like that was huge.
Do it, because I hate that noise.
Sure.
I hate that. That drives me
Yeah,
nuts.
I've seen it in the elementary all the way through the high school.
We don't do this, so we
Oh
just.
my gosh, just so blatant. That it's so amazing that you guys can recognize that. I
Well,
love
he even says, like, I've never even seen it. He's like, that's like this dance. What are you talking about?
I mean, it's also in football.
Now, I have a question for both you, Bridget and Becky. So we've talked about some of the things that have impacted kids, your kids specifically, and that you think brought the most value to kids throughout this, and kind of how that can shape families. I'd love to know over this last year, and I'm not meaning it as in one episode's more important than the other, but certain things resonate with us different. I'd love to know what guests that you guys have brought on like gave you guys that light bulb moment of your life where it helped open up some type of door that really, really impacted you.
Before we do that, I'm going to say peace to you guys.
Wait,
What? Do you have a question for them?
wait. Then let's, before we have that, send them away for the night, unless you want to bring them back. Can we do a homeschool? Can we do homeschool really quick, and then we'll go
Okay.
back?
Yeah, sorry. I was just time. They got to go to bed and we have to wake up early.
is
so
it?
It's almost 9
8
o'clock. 9 o'clock.
Well, I'm tired, totally.
So really quick. So on our, we'll make it quick. So on our previous episodes, we have talked about Becky transitioning to homeschooling her
Not a
son.
man.
And they had just started the whole homeschool, and Peyton was in that transition. So now I just want to kind of touch on that with our anniversary, as it's been a couple months that now you've been homeschooled, if you can just share, because I know in the beginning you weren't really too thrilled about it, and it was all new to both of you and your family. So you were just kind of learning and what that new world would look like and social life would look like for you. But at the same time, mentally and emotionally, you were struggling at school as well. So if we can just go into whatever you're comfortable sharing, since being homeschooled and now having a little bit more experience at home and seeing what that world really does look like, if you can share some of your emotions now and how you feel about the homeschool life.
Well, first of all, the friends, all my old friends, I could tell that one of my friends didn't actually like me being me. He wanted me to be like a cool kid, like him, but I didn't. So he left. Well, not left, but
You don't talk to him as much
I don't
as,
talk to him. And I have lost a few friends from homeschool, but I've made a lot of new ones, mainly in band.
Yeah,
But-
because he still gets to go to, for folks who haven't listened to our episode on that, we were lucky enough to pull him out of school, but he gets to do all of his classes online and then go into school for band. So every day we drop him off, he goes to band, he comes home on the bus. So he literally just does like an hour or whatever and comes back. So the one thing he was really worried about was leaving school because his band was his favorite thing to do with all of his band people. And as a band geek myself, I fully understand the family of band members because here we are. But that was one thing as I was unenrolling him out of school. One of the ladies she called the band room to get his stuff. And the teacher's like, she does know that he can come back to just be part of the band, right? Like that could be his elective. And I didn't know that. And so thank God she told me because he gets to go be part of the band and do exactly what he wants to do while learning all the other stuff here. And so
That's fun.
yeah.
Also, I've learned I've had more friends because I also joined another class. I don't like PE.
Another band class. Yeah.
But also having the time at home, I got to start a book.
Oh, you can't really,
You can't really see it, but
yeah, you can't see.
Writing a book, as we talk about, and we'll share more too, but yeah, they're writing a book together.
Mm-hmm.
it's about being mad and the different like emotions of mad or something.
Yeah, it's the big feeling of being mad or something.
Yeah.
Is what we don't know what the title is, something like that. But
Something.
I
So
think sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so when you emotion wise, when you do feel frustrated or you do like get mad and you now are in the comfort of your own home and really being able to control your schedule and your schooling and what you're learning, how do you deal with those emotions and like the frustration of all of it?
Well, sometimes I just don't think and I just keep doing it and keep getting madder. But other times I just like skip it and go to another thing and then come back to it.
But you've learned how the biggest thing I think is he's learned how to say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm frustrated, I'm having a bad day, whatever, instead of just being angry. And that's kind of where the idea of the book came in, was like, you can't just be angry. Why are you angry? Well, I have too much work to do. Okay, so you're overwhelmed about how much you have to do. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. One of the nice things that we've been able to figure out, and I didn't until recently figure this out myself, was he had all of this like social studies work to do. And he was so overwhelmed and couldn't figure out. And I was like, wait a minute, I could just click this done. You don't need to learn this particular thing because I don't care about it, whatever it was. Let's just move on. Like, why is this going to ruin your week when it isn't going to impact your life? This is stupid. So it's going to be a little harder going back to school next year because you can't exactly just not do something. But the whole idea was that we learn how to be 13. We learn how to be 14. We learn how to know what those emotions are. Do you think that you've learned better how to handle and control emotions?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
I mean,
Are you happy that you don't have to watch that news channel anymore?
Oh, yes.
CNN 10.
I've actually learned that there was something that was kind of funny on it too.
Yeah, what? Oh, nothing. That was just funny. Yeah. And so he does do all of the same subjects. It just, I get to control it.
And how do you feel the fact that you get to do more hands-on stuff, like going with your mom, whether it's to like the park and you guys get to go sit by the water and do different outings and learn hands-on and do more? I would say they're considered field trips. How do you feel about that aspect of it?
I mean, it's fun because just like, was it last week that we went on a picnic?
We went on we went to the botanical gardens too.
Yeah, we went to the botanical gardens, which was actually really cool. I had a little scavenger hunt there. But field trips are just, they're fun at school and at home. Because you don't have to actually do school.
Yeah.
Connor, do you feel a certain way about it? Like having a brother homeschooled who's always with your mom, and then you just are like, oh man, I gotta go to school. I actually have to get ready.
Well, there's a downside and an upside to each of them.
Just to still come home.
Because,
early.
yeah.
Still gets to come home before me because I have to go to school.
Because I get to see my friends way more often than Peyton does. But also, Peyton gets to spend more time with mom than I do.
I have a healthier relationship with her.
Maybe. I think we have a good relationship though. But I've asked you if you wanted to stay home, and I don't think that's what you want to do. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's awesome too, is pointing that out in parenting is, Becky, you giving the boys that option. And even though I'm sure you would wish to be able to control homeschooling and doing both of them, you still give your kids that option, and you discuss it as a family and really weigh the option of, especially when it comes to the grades and the mental health aspect, and you guys going in depth with that conversation with Peyton. And then Connor, he's like, no, I want my social life and my friends, where Peyton's like, this is really affecting my mental health. Can we try this? Mm-hmm. And at first, and then there was also, of course, as those who've listened to who haven't listened, there was a lot with the whole mandates and everything going on. So I think that's awesome too, from a parent aspect, is both of your kids don't like the same style of learning, and you as a family have that discussion and give the boys the choice.
Yeah. And one thing, like we were talking about it today, actually, was because they are so aware of the world and they understand the symbols and the propaganda and all the nonsense. If our school, we're lucky, we have a very good public school here. It's not as crappy as you hear on the news and all that other stuff, because we live in a very conservative area. So it would never fly in this sort of area we live in, but he's very aware of it. So if they were starting to do stuff that sounded a little like mom and dad wouldn't like, we would hear about it. And so I don't feel like they're hiding it or there's nothing you can do about it or whatever. If I all of a sudden heard that, yeah, we're learning about this, that, or the other thing, we would hear about it. And then we would have a conversation about it. And so that's why in this situation, it works. I will never tell anyone how to parent their kid, because every kid is totally different.
Also,
I thought you were going to tell people how to parent their kid.
No. No. But at school there was like, I don't know if it was a sex ed something, but it was something like that. It was probably just because they were turning
puberty video.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Like everyone was like, I don't want to watch this.
Sure you do. It's interesting.
We laughed. We got some. You would get sent to the principal's office.
Literally,
I was
like in elementary, everyone was just laughing. I was like, dude, I want to listen to this.
Yeah, I have to learn about puberty, darn it.
Well,
no, he has to.
I already did. Well, last year.
Have you done the 6th grade one yet?
I've done the books yet.
But last year, one of the 5th grade teachers said, if you laugh, you're gonna get sent to the principal's office. Like me and my friends were like,
go behind one of your friends.
Which is so weird, because it's not like they haven't. It's not like they haven't heard about it from me, but
it's just different being around your friends and in the school setting.
Yes, they said penis.
That's literally what was happening in mine.
The
I was
videos
like,
are
shut
important
up.
too, how they present it. It's like, it's hard not to laugh. It's like, okay, I get you're trying to educate me, but this is a little bit awkward.
Super weird.
Yeah.
Like from your teacher.
Right.
So last year when like all the girls, like the next day, they went into the classroom to just all the girls when the boys were doing it. And then they're doing Just Dance, like for, I don't know why. And then we walk in, and then all we hear is just a loud scream because they didn't hear us coming.
Oh, because you scared them when they were
Yeah.
just dancing or whatever nonsense was
All
going
the
on.
boys were playing on the computer.
They're like, oh, boys.
Kind
Is
of.
there anything else that you guys want to touch on before you guys? Thank
to
you guys
bed.
for joining us. Before you get to go play or get ready for bed.
Get
Mom's
ready.
still on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll be
And
here.
like
We'll move
10
on to do. Yeah, you get to go to bed. Thank you guys for coming on. I know it's not easy to be on the.
And now we gotta do the train thing all the way back there.
No, just go. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you guys.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
High five.
Aw.
Oh,
So
Lord.
special, even like it would be really neat, like you said, to go back and like look at the episodes that they've been on and see the like how they've matured from the first time that they were on to now.
Connor talked way more because in the beginning, him and Drina, they just laughed and they were just like, they did not really talk. So he actually was way more outspoken in this episode.
And so confident with what he said too. Both of them, you know, they weren't trying to think, they just knew like he wanted to explain the episode that you brought up and he felt confident in what those symbols meant. That's so neat.
And that's been really interesting because he has way more to say than he's always the second born. So he's always never allowed to say very much. And but when he does, it's like, wow, okay, you have some smarts. All right. So back to our question was our favorite episode.
And not even favorite is like, oh, this person was more
impactful.
important or better. Just, yeah, like what episodes for you? There's certain guests I've had, there's certain guests that your listeners will listen to that just have a more profound impact on them personally. And I'd love to know your guest that kind of did that to you, where you were like, oh, wow, you just raised my consciousness, or you taught me something that was so impactful to me.
That's hard because I think that there's something special with all of them. And there's certain ones, like we've learned so much about the military. And even doing Vanessa's, there's so much, Vanessa Morbeck's episode with the MST, her being an MST survivor, there's so much to unpack in that. And we still haven't even got to touch on all of it. So I think that's hard because we've learned so much, like from episode 1, even like, I think it's cool seeing episode 1 with Jeremy Indica and technology. Like all of us were just starting up and like, we didn't know what we were doing, but we still made do. And that one was a powerful episode, but then seeing to like us grow together and where he's at with his content and like everything that he's doing and how much he's grown. It's cool to see that aspect. We haven't got to do Samantha Brown yet, but she's still one person that sparked this for me and huge inspiration. I know Molly and her recent win in court and all of that. So that's hard because there's so many takeaways from all of them. And we've learned firsthand from everyone. I still will say the one episode that forever changed all of us and was our most powerful episode was with Jaco Boyens, and what took place after that call. I even just got chills like thinking of it. Just what happened after that call and him being amazed by us as much as we are amazed and inspired by him, and the prayer and everything that took place after we stopped recording on that call, I think still forever changed all of us. So I don't know, Becky, you can answer.
Yeah, and it doesn't
I think too, because there's so much.
yeah, just like those things, like what were little takeaways from shows or from guests that for you were just, oh my gosh, that just blew my mind or my heart open, you know, or I used this thing that they told me. I've seen it a million times, or it's been a tool that I've used a bunch, or it impacted my family, you know.
I think for me, it's the fact that I don't know how to say it, but like the stories are real people. So we have conversations with people who really have gone through these things, who really have suffered at the hand of adults or whatever has happened. And I mean, I look back as far, like we had Tommy on and he in the Boy Scouts. And then you look at Lisa and her family and all of these survivors who have dealt with such traumatic things, and they are adults that are making a way, that they have gone through this and they are now here to tell their story. And that not only can you, because I say all the time, like we talk to these people and you can't say this isn't true because it's not one generation. It's not one decade. It's not one area of the world. It's not one gender. It's not one thing. Everybody tells a similar story, no matter where they are or what they were or what happened to them. And the trauma that comes of it is so powerful, and people are so blasé about it. Like, oh, that didn't really happen, or, oh, that's not that big of a deal, or how could you not remember that? And again, it's so powerful to be able to tell these people's stories. And I know, Emma, you feel the same way, to be able to have the platform to say, you know what, I don't have a story like that, but I'm so happy to be able to lend you my platform. But then, like Bridget, you said that with Yako on, that validates everything that we talk about. That's kind of how I see it. Like he literally goes in and he saves these kids, and everything that he sees, these people that come on have talked about, and it bridges the gap. Like it really is this, holy crap, these people really went through this. You can now see why they totally would have forgotten it and blocked it out of their mind, because Yako comes in and says, here's the story that they lived through. And so it's really like, to me, it's all of it wrapped up, because it really is using our platform to be ambassadors to all of these people.
Yeah, I agree. I would too say, even just hearing the stories, and most of the time we're way ahead. Even though we sit on episodes and we pre-record, we're way ahead of news articles, or we're getting people in our DMs to cover some of the biggest stories, and they don't trust the media. So seeing that aspect and knowing that we're trusted throughout the communities has honestly been an honor to share that space and be vulnerable with people and everyone that we talk to. And I think too, even tying it back and seeing something that we've stuck to and honored is, we wanted that platform for community and to grow it, and not get caught up with being pulled through division, no matter where and what side it was coming from. We always stay grounded, especially together and with the survivors on that same front, and sharing their story, and really hitting home that we knew what it felt to be censored and how that felt. And so we weren't going to say, these are the guidelines to be on our podcast, or you only have so many minutes to tell your story, and you can only talk about this, this, and this. And we have no scripts, and it's real and raw. So having that like open conversation, and half of the time people will say, well, you don't have questions or anything prepared. And it's like, I mean, we do our research on those who we can do research on or follow on social media. But for us, it's always been to allow that survivor, that person come on and have the platform and tell their story how they want to tell it. And so I think that's been cool to see that we've stuck to that and not allowed people, no matter which way we've been pulled, to change that about us, as well as like our podcasts on all platforms. No matter if our episodes were pulled or the censorship, we stuck through it all together and had faith in everyone we connected with. And even seeing like the music aspect of it, of we used to listen to a lot of mainstream and secular artists, and now like moving to even more, like especially on the independent artist side and growing with their communities has been a blessing. And we've learned a lot about what's going on in the military, like even on our most recent episode. So I think it's no matter what and who we talk to, every single person is, they don't want this happening to you, your child, or the next generation. And it really is about humanity and the bigger picture, and everyone living in their purpose and knowing that we have to raise our vibration and stick through that together in order to change the future generations. So that's been cool to see, is even connecting with the conservative artists and us being thankful for their platforms as well, and sharing that aspect as well.
You know what else is neat that I've noticed with both of our shows, and it was something that I didn't have the awareness that would be, that this would be a big takeaway from this project. You know, if we look at when we're filming this show right now, I know this episode isn't going to come out tomorrow, but right now there's a Disney scandal going on where Disney's showing us what side of the pedophile agenda fence they sit on. And you see people now starting to post these memes of Disney that we've been posting for years. Yep. And one of the things that I've realized from both of our shows is, you know, before we met survivors, we would look for maybe the news a long time ago. And then once you get away from the news, you almost look at maybe political influencers, or you look for people that are almost taking the place of what a survivor can give at a very base level. And one of the takeaways that I've realized from listening to all of your episodes, the technology things, you guys have been talking about Disney and giving examples on your show for this whole past year. What I realize is that it's survivors that are on the cutting edge of news, and we're on the forefront of recognizing that. Everybody is still, you know, the years behind where we were years ago, looking at the political people who aren't the corrupt ones and looking for the stand-ins to give us the information, where we're actually bringing the people on the show that actually lived what these people are trying to explain. And they're decades ahead sometimes. You know, some of the survivors we've had on are much older and have been speaking out for decades. Then you have people for years, they've been speaking out. And either way, their knowledge is years ahead of what even the most progressive influencers that we see right now are talking about, you know. And so that was an unexpected thing for me. To me, it was, I want to, you know, and for both of us, let's give people a platform to talk. And I'm like, gosh, I don't believe anything unless it's verified by survivors. Like, that's kind of the common denominator. I don't care about the political influencers or this person, you know. And with technology, like the technology issues that we see on the forefront are years behind Bark and Protect Young Eyes and the guests that you guys have featured, Red Light Rebellion. You know, it's like you guys are bringing on people that are years ahead of what anybody on the forefront that's mainstream is talking about. And I think that's really neat too. Like, you're giving parents that gift of saying, we're going to put you years ahead of anything else that you're going to see right now. And you're going to hear it right from the people who either created it or actually experienced it, not just are up there talking about it. And I feel like that'll be something when people start recognizing that, it's like you'll have people flocking to your shows because they'll be like, oh my gosh, these people are way ahead. Like, why didn't I know this? But it's kind of exciting even seeing like some of those Disney memes, mainstream people are posting it and they're getting like millions of views. And it's like, we posted that 3 years ago.
Right.
Our podcast.
Well, and that's a really cool thing because of our podcast, all three of our podcasts, but both of the podcasts, we have a library of stuff that people get to go listen to when they figure this out, when they're woken to this, when they wake up and are like, holy crap, I heard someone say that. I never knew about it. And someone can say, hey, I have a podcast you can listen to. This is what they're using. This is where we need to be. This is what these people are saying. And yeah, it seems really slow. I think it's speeding up. I think people waking up is getting a lot faster, but we already did the work. We have a website. We have information out there. We connect with people. We have survivors. How do you support survivors? We've done all of this, and it seems really slow. And it seems really like, okay, where are we going and what are we doing? But every day we get that one more follower. We get that one more add to Telegram. Someone tells a story and someone watches our show. That's how this is going to work. And again, it's that one more person into the circle to wake people up. And I mean, would it be great if everyone knew about it and came to us? Absolutely. But if I can tell one person and they can go out and tell 5, I think we did our job.
Yeah, it's cool to see full circle too, because when we were researching years ago and going down like deeper rabbit holes together, and before we even we had Telegram groups and everything before. So knowing that we got to do a lot of deep dives before the internet was completely scrubbed, and then us saying we want a database so people didn't have to go and search and go find all these articles. So then we created everything that we wish we had at that time. And so now as people awaken, stuff is scrubbed from the internet. You can't literally find stuff that we got to see years ago. So now knowing that we have it firsthand with survivors and their stories are now all on one platform on our website, and then being able to share the music and their books and everything that they have going on with businesses and whatnot. We've literally created all of that, as well as seeing too, sorry, my daughter's friend's calling my phone. But anyway, seeing that aspect, and then even from both of our podcasts is us bouncing off of it and saying, what can I take away from this? And really working hand in hand to that, as well as more comes to light, is being able to even work together and shift everything that we want to see change. And it's yes, people often are always well, you guys have really dark episodes, or you guys are talking about this and that, but it's okay, but we can shift that and say, even though we're saying take this away or sharing, and as you take stuff away, we're giving you content to replace it with. So that's what I love as well about both of our podcasts.
It's been so fun. It's just neat seeing the evolution, and just, for me too, seeing some of the stuff that we learned years ago, people starting to dip their toes in it. It's almost like we know what they're in for if they start digging a little bit more. Oh, that Disney logo looks a little bit like the Epstein Island.
Or the Mickey ears are 666. There's lots of stuff.
Yeah, how quick we can pick apart stuff, even together. And as more with even currently the elections and everything getting ready to amp up, we're okay, God pulled us away from this person, but now this person's working with this person. And then you see the circles and you're I thought this person was good on this side. So seeing and being able to depict that, and all of us are but wait, did you see this? Did you see this? So I think everything that we've learned from all of the survivors and all of our deep dives is how quick we can pick apart circles and people to one another, and really use the discernment, especially as we get brought into hey, do you want to collab on this? Or hey, do you want to do this? And we're let me sit back. Let's pray on this. God, do you want to do this?
Yeah, let's do something with that person. It never shows up. And then you see why. And you're oh, okay, now I know why that didn't happen, or what's going on there. And again, just because somebody works at Disney does not mean that they know all of the ins and outs of the gross parts of Disney. Just because somebody works at, I know Pfizer, we'll throw that out there, doesn't mean that they were part of this. And so it isn't, because I worked at the company that was distributing the jab. If I found out that the CEO was a pedophile and doing whatever, would I have known that? No, I would have no idea. I'm like 10 steps below the CEO. And so again, it doesn't mean everything is bad, but we have to start looking at things knowing that the people who are putting them out there are not good people. It doesn't mean like we said before, it doesn't mean every time you hear hot dog, that's what that means. That's not what that means. The context and the intention is very important.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us, Emma. Do you have more questions, Bridget?
Yeah, let's do, and even Emma, if you want to, you can answer these too. What would you guys say has been your biggest struggle while podcasting?
I can go first on that. I would say for me, for one, and I know you guys aren't either, and honestly, most of our guests aren't, aside from people like Yako. We're not public speakers. So it's foreign even doing this. And then we're not in front of people. We're doing it over Zoom almost. I've never done an in-person interview. So 100% of the time for both of us, I think, so it's already interesting figuring that out. But I think for me, my biggest struggle is knowing what to say when you're speechless, when you get hit with something that is just so like heartbreaking or something that just takes your breath away. That's always hard for me, is like knowing how to manage that situation. And there's sometimes I'll literally just sit there and like, I don't say anything. And I'm grateful for that because I know it shows up authentically, but I almost distract myself because I know I'm on camera too, where I'm like, okay, you're the host, like you need to say something for this. And it's like, what do I say? How do I even like come up with a word or a sentence? Like, how do I respond to what I just heard, and like processing that so quick? And I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at that, but that is still something I always struggle with, is like that battle between like that authentic emotion and then understanding that there's people listening that don't want to sit there and listen to me just being silent, and like knowing that there's also needs to be dialogue happening, and trying to navigate how to do both of those things can be really hard sometimes.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing, because it's really hard to be in the moment, listening, paying attention, wanting to have a good answer or a good something to whatever they said, and thinking about what your next thing has to be, because you don't want to sound very, like they give an answer and you're like, okay, thanks. Question number 2 is, because you don't want to be, you really want it to be very authentic, but you're like, there's times I know where I'll be like, oh, I have a really good commentary about this. And then they change the topic and it's like, damn it. Now what am I going to say? Like, I'm not ready for that. And you have to be ready to keep going. Thank God we have, like, Bridget and I can play really well off of each other, and she can kind of tell like, shit, I don't got anything. I need you to pick it up, or vice versa. And so we're lucky that way, where you're just stuck.
That's what I was going to ask too, is like, what challenges do you guys have together doing an episode? I want to hear Bridget's answer first, but I'd love to hear, just because your show is so different than mine, like how that works with 3 people, challenges that you guys have.
I would say for me, for the first question, would be my biggest struggle still to this day will always be doing satanic ritual abuse conversations. That one is always my toughest episodes, and mentally I have to prepare so much for those episodes, and even after, because that one will always mess with me, just because of even seeing the videos of like Frazzle Drip, and just knowing like us being so close to the border and what's happening in Jorge, and him shining so much light on that. And then even Sheriff Lamb talking about the fentanyl, and like we're seeing it literally in our backyard, and knowing that our state is a hub for it. And then you just think about like the little kids and the rape trees and all of that. So, and it goes deeper. So when people ask and I know you guys often get asked this too, is people often wish they could just know what's in our brain and how we see things. And it's like, if you ask me one thing, I can't just be like, I can't take you from point A to here all the way to the end, because it's like there's so much in between. And then when you start talking about it and you ask, it's like there's no way to turn it off to say, okay, now I can tell you're uncomfortable. This is where, like, you can barely get past like the local level trafficking and like Hollywood. Well, we haven't even got into SRA and what's really happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So seeing the, like, having those conversations, or even like, I don't do small talk well. It usually ties back to always trafficking. And everyone will always say, well, God, Bridget, you ruin everything. Is everything tied to trafficking? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm just trying to inform you. So I think that's been like a big struggle, is like those episodes. And then like trying to educate people when they do ask, is knowing that some people aren't always at that level of ready to hear it all. And then I would say another thing that has been super weird is like when I give out my phone number, or like I respond on social media. And then like if I call that person, or like, hey, like if you ever need anything, like text me or call me. And then I actually pick up the phone and call that person, or do like a voice note, like seeing, and it's weird to me is seeing people be like, oh, wow, you responded, or, oh, thank you. And I'm like, I'm just a normal person. Like, so that part has been really weird. I'm not used to that aspect. And like, it's interesting to see too, though, like once you do more episodes and connect with certain people, is when people say, people that you've never met support you and share your stuff more than your own family. But then you have people who do know what you do and your podcast is about, and they're in your DMs and like sharing stuff with you, but they aren't ready to go public or post it. But they're like, hey, can you post this for me? Essentially, because I know if I see it, I'm going to post it.
Yeah.
So I think that part has also been pretty interesting to still see, like as more and more is coming to light, especially with Disney. And it's like, yeah, we've been talking about that, but sure, I'll still post it anyways. And then like people who are like, oh, well, you guys, and the one thing as far as support, and don't get me wrong, yes, we do have a lot of support and love from everybody, and there are some trolls and other things that we deal with a lot behind camera. But I would say one thing that really was our first big struggle was what recently happened when we had to cancel our trafficking march, and raising awareness, and knowing that that person was within 15 minutes of us, and then us being put in the shoes of like, what do we do when it came to like lawyer, calling the local police? And then luckily we just happened to have our family, and luckily we happen to have, because of our podcast, people in the right places, in a great, I would say, great sources to have on speed dial when we needed them the most. But also dealing with the police and saying, what do I do? And then really sitting back and being like, in a survivor's shoes, and you're like, no wonder, literally no wonder why the survivors do not call and report these things. So seeing it from that aspect, and that honestly was completely different to see, even though we knew what happened. It was different for us to be put in that situation in our own backyard and with our own family, and then potentially being like, okay, so how do we pick up from this? Or like, not knowing what was next, or who, what, where, and why, when we genuinely were just trying to help and have only done that part. So I think that was eye-opening. And just like, even when you have like those people who say, oh, well, you inspire me, I support you. But then, how do I want to word this? Then you have those people who want you to, their intention. So they say that they love you, support you, but then you push that person's stuff, and don't ever get it twisted or wrong. Like, I do stuff out of the kindness of my heart and because I genuinely care about the message and the movement behind it. But then just the reciprocation of it, and it's like, okay, but what is the intention? Are you here for just yourself or for the overall message and community aspect of it? So I think that part has been interesting because like some people are like, oh, I support you and everything. But then you ask them a question or like they want to like now come on your podcast and it's like, but wait, like you don't even share the content or like anything. Do you even know what we talk about?
Right.
So just little things like that have been eye-opening to see too, from a different perspective, like when unplugging and pulling back from everything.
There was I think it was a meme or it was something somebody posted recently or a song or something, but it said, basically there was a person sitting there, I think it was a TikTok video, and there was an over voice. So there was somebody that said, there's somebody like sitting there, and then there's like an invisible voice that's like, why aren't you famous yet? And they're like, because you're not sharing my content, and it's like, that's exactly it. Like all these people wanting support, but like, they're not the ones helping us grow. And it's like you said, we have so many people that do support. And so we're talking about like a very small amount of people that this is the case, but we do get that, and we don't want to sit there and force feed people and be like, you have to share my stuff. It's not about that, but it is interesting seeing how people behind the scenes will really support us, but for whatever reason, it's like they struggle to publicly support us, and so you just intention.
Yeah. And I think it's been cool, even not like using TikTok, how like we don't really care for it or use it. But we, because of our supporters, have been blessed to connect with TikTokers and have been blessed to be connected to a survivor in our own state who has actually escaped from somewhere that like I constantly would hang out in, like party in Old Town Scottsdale. So like seeing that has hit home too, and being able to connect with those people and other people globally because of our because everyone who follows us and all the love and support as well.
Well, I think it's really interesting. There's been survivors that have reached out to me, and not because they want a platform, but because there's someone who understands and listens. And because of what we do and the stuff we share, and because of our podcast and all of that, they feel comfortable saying, I also was a victim. I'm now a survivor. This is what's happened. And we can say, I am really sorry. Whatever you need us to do to help, we're willing to lend a hand. You want me to share something? You want to come on our podcast? And some people are like, no, I just wanted you to know. And I just want to know that you're there in case I need you. Yeah. Unfortunately, some survivors at this point need money. We don't make any. Like, that's not what we're doing. We aren't here. And so if we do give money, it's because it's our own money and it's the kindness of our own heart. And we hope someday that we do make money, that we can share and give to others and to survivors and do all that stuff. But right now, it's just really nice that people are like, hey, I noticed that you are an advocate for survivors. I am one, and I just needed to tell somebody.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're the first people.
Yeah. Even seeing too how we've triggered people lately has
that's been fun.
Super interesting. How we've triggered, or like people who first started following you, and then because of one of our episodes, we triggered them, and then we'll be in like our DMs talking to that person, and then they just out of nowhere will say, I don't even know why I told you that, but it just came out, and it felt really good to tell somebody else my story or something that I've been holding on to, whether it was childhood trauma or something that happened to them as a kid. So that's been interesting too, is as more people are awakening, is our sorry, not sorry triggers. Because again, it's like, imagine being a survivor and they've been trying to tell their story and no one would listen. So now it's like, we have to all be uncomfortable at some point, and that's the only way we're going to be able to change the future. So the trigger part has been super interesting as well.
What has been for you guys, what's been like the best thing that has come out of this whole year? And like the thing that has been like the least challenging?
I mean, I think the best thing, I'll always say the best thing is the two of you. Like this, I know we're talking podcast, but like this is like us. And I love being able to say, I helped start an organization that talks about trafficking. Like that is huge. And to go and say, I'm a co-host of a podcast. Like I have so many people be like, wait, what? You have a podcast? Like, you don't seem like you'd have a podcast. And you're talking about what? And it's like, oh yeah, like you don't even know the depths of crazy that we get into and that we talk about. But it's so cool. Even for, like Bridget said, we have some of the best people that follow us and some of the best people out there that share our content when our own family could care less about what we do. And that's hard. And to be able to sit here and be with you two and have the three of us really support each other and know we're going to do this and we're going to figure it out, and what God has connected us to and things that are coming this year and what's going to happen. We don't even know, but it's already amazing. And so that for me is just like, this is the best thing ever to be able to say, yeah, this is what I do. Like, this is cool.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say just being able to work with both of you, and then just knowing that we are trusted throughout so many communities and with so many stories that we haven't even got to share or touch on, because there might be current, whether it's court cases and gag orders and different things going on that, or they just aren't comfortable coming public yet, but they shared with us. So knowing, I think that's been the most mind-blowing, is not only the relationships we built globally and working with both of you, but then also knowing that like we have evidence. No, scratch that. Don't come at us allegedly.
That's quote unquote. Yes.
I would say a safe zone for survivors, and we have covered some of the biggest trafficking stories in the rings in U.S. history. So knowing that we have touched on so many cases and met survivors firsthand globally, and how they've seen how even connecting with them to talk to one another and how some of them intertwine in their stories, that part is honestly gives me chills, because it's like those moments where you're like, okay, is this making a difference? Or because of censorship and shadow ban, and you're like, even though there's these stats and these numbers and they're not real, because they alter them, they mess with our accounts and all that all the time. But knowing that the survivors are being able to have that soft space to land and trust, and then knowing that we're touching on like literally the biggest pedo rings in US history and how it connects. And so sitting back and seeing news articles and knowing like, yeah, that's BS. Like, we know the survivor, like, you want to know the truth, go here. So I think that's honestly been the most amazing yet mind-blowing thing. And knowing that there's things that haven't happened yet, but like even again, our call with Yako and us being able to tell him like, our first time we talked to you, this was where we thought we were headed. And then now, after him saying, well, you know, God will lead you down this path, and organizations and connecting with other people. And we're like, no, actually, it inspired us to start our own organization. And the reasons behind why we placed it as an LLC and based off of everything we learned from the survivors. And so I think that's one thing, is knowing that we've always done everything led by the survivors and based off of the knowledge, and like just doing our own research and doing it hands-on, and like going to the safe houses and touring that and meeting people, and everything that you see on our platforms is us being authentic in everything that we do in our everyday life. Like, we're the same person on and off camera. So if you were to meet us in person, you might get like a more uncensored stuff, but on camera and off camera, we're the same person. And like, just knowing that everything we do, it's authentic and staying true to ourselves, no matter who's tried to get us to collab or whatever, we've always stayed authentic.
And I wanted to add to that too. How cool we have a business, you guys. Like, who would have ever thought that just a couple weirdos who got together and shared theories behind the scenes in a group chat on Signal would end up starting an actual organization that's going to make an impact, and that already is. And like that we have podcasts that have been going for a year plus now. You know, like, it's so neat just to see even where like our friendship led. And it's like, gosh, what a blessing. Like, I would have never thought to do all of this without both of you, you know. And I love whenever you guys forward messages in our chat of somebody that jumps in your DMs and is like, thank you, like this episode changed my life, or thank you. You know, it's going back to like the people that support. Like, who would have ever thought that we'd have people that we don't even know, that we have made such a big impact on, that like they're so loyal to us. They want to tune in for every episode. They're the ones cheering us on, and like in our comment section, you know, it's so neat what we've built with it, with each other, and how that's almost been a gift that keeps giving. We're like, you know, other people feel like they're part of what we've built. Like, they feel close to our mission. They feel close to what we're doing. And like, we have a merch store now. Like, one day we're going to walk down the street and see somebody wearing a Stand By Survivors logo. It's so neat to think of what we're creating. And, you know, just a year ago, we had no idea what was going to happen. It's like, I can't wait to see in another year, when you're on your 2-year anniversary, what we're going to talk about. And we're going to look back on this episode and be like, we were just amateurs, you know?
Yeah, right.
Right. And even to look back and like knowing the timing of like even a year later, like just a year ago, we were looking at you like, Emma, we're not starting a podcast. No, we're not. We're like, no, we're not doing a podcast. You're like, yes, you are. Like, we don't even know what we're doing. And then it just, even you like taking the extra step and the initiative to be like, no, you are, this is what you're doing. You asked me all these questions. I'm teaching you, like, jump on this Zoom, and even us just jumping on a call and you teaching us. So even without you, we wouldn't have our podcast, because you honestly are the one who were like, no, you're starting a podcast. So we are.
For me, like, you know, Bridget's helping introduce me to people. Samantha Brown was one of my first guests. She was somebody that you connected with like way early on. You know, it's like, you guys helped me formulate my little 5-episode series.
That's my favorite line ever. I'm just going to do like 5 episodes. Okay. But little, like, who would have thought?
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thought 5 few episodes just to kind of, you're like, yeah, I'll break the ice or do whatever. And you're, I don't even know, 60 some, 70 some episodes into it. And there's still people coming to you saying, I want to tell my story. And that's the coolest part, is we had no idea the impact. And again, do we have 1 million followers? No, we don't have 1 million followers. And I don't know that we even want 1 million followers, but the followers we have are strong, and they are good, and they will continue to grow. And who even knows where we're going to go, but who knew a year ago that after 5 episodes, this is where we would be.
Right. And that you guys would now be a year into podcasting, and that we'd have a business. And you guys need to go check out the website that Becky built. Check out our merch store if you haven't. Like, Becky has worked her butt off. We don't have this extravagant team. Like, it all does come out of our pocket, from podcasting to website. We
trying to figure out how to put URLs in, you know, whatever.
Right. But our website's awesome. It's become such a cool space. You know, I think it levels up what you typically think of a website. And like, I'm so proud of it. And I'm so proud of you girls. You know, it's so neat just even seeing where you guys started with, we can't do a podcast, and seeing where you are now and seeing the changes in your families. I mean, to be able to have that as an example of what this information can do, that you can demonstrate it in your own family. It makes my hair stand up on end. You know, it gives me chills. It's so neat to see just the impact that doing your podcast has had on your own families, you know, and I couldn't be more proud of you girls. And there's nobody in this world I'd rather work with than both of you on this.
Love you. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love you, and it's mutual. And we have so much in store coming down the line. And we honestly still are going to be taking on more journeys that right now we like have talks about doing other things. And it's like, we don't know yet if we want to do it or commit to it. It's just, again, it'll be God's plan and us working together. And I think that's the beautiful thing, is it's literally, and what people don't get to see is the behind the scenes as often. And we do everything on our own when it comes to the show notes and the research, if there is any on people, and just connecting or sitting on 3 to 6 hour calls and meeting survivors and whoever we're going to talk to. And those are honestly just genuine calls and getting to know one another, and because for us, it's more than just a podcast. We all are normal people, and everyone has a story. So to us, it's not just, okay, we did one podcast with you and now we're done with you. For us, we built those friendships and those relationships, and we genuinely care. So we take the time to do and make time for everything that we're doing. And again, like Emma said, we're using our own money and making the time for it because it's something we care about, and we know how deep it really goes. And it's us, our time and our commitment to share this stuff, to educate other people, because we want to be that change we want to see in the world. So we aren't just going to tell people things if we aren't doing it ourselves. So really living that in authenticity and doing everything that we do at home and in our everyday lives and sharing that with people. So even opening up a little more to social media, yes, there's good and bad to it, like all things, but I think without us having one another, we wouldn't be able, in faith, we wouldn't be able to get through the things we have gotten through, especially like the spiritual side, and even leaning on Becky for more of the spiritual side and the prayers when we were at times spiritually attacked or experiencing that whole level, and us all learning that together and how to pray against it. So yeah, there's been ups and downs over the past year, but we've got through it because we've had our faith, but we've also stayed to our core and used discernment and really invested not only our time, our energy, but also our money, and taking back our money from things that we no longer support and putting it towards different missions and things with a purpose where it was actually standing for good. So I think too, looking at that aspect of just over the past year and everything, that it's shifted a lot more as we continue to even learn more. We still, just when you think you're done learning, it's like, we're not done yet. There's still more. As though we've learned a lot in deep in there. It's even connecting with people like Yako or Jorge, hands-on on the front lines, who are going in and actually saving the kids and exposing it. So I think too, just again, the education piece is so huge that everyone needs to get dialed into.
Any teasers or goals for season 2 that you can give to people as a little carrot to dangle?
I don't know if there's a whole lot of like teasers, but one of the directions that we've talked about wanting to go is to make it holistic. Because we kind of already started that. We started that with the music and getting the message before it was, that doesn't mean we're not talking to survivors. It doesn't mean we're not talking to people who are helping our kids and doing all that stuff. But we also, when we say we want to help our kids, we want to help our kids in all areas. So we have Brandon from I Am Sups coming on here shortly. That really, let's talk about health. Let's talk about what it looks like. What does it look like for us as parents to get healthy so that we can make our kids better? We had Andrea on with her herbs. So we're not just sticking to here's the scary nitty gritty things of the world that we have to be aware of. Yeah, we do. And we will talk about that. And we'll continue to talk about that. But here's the other stuff. Here's how we raise the elevation. Here's how we raise the frequency and we make better humans. And does this thing necessarily resonate with you? No, maybe not, but we can start bringing in different ideas and different activities so that people will learn how to overall become a more wholesome family and different things like that.
Yeah, I think too with that is even like as we bring, I would say all communities together, even just looking at like how we did the music, it was a month of music. And I know some people were like, a month of music, like, what are you thinking? Like you're pulling away from survivor stories. And it's like, no, even though it's not labeled survivor or human trafficking, like they still are a survivor. Like we had vets on and they're sharing even history of like Iraq and Afghanistan and like where they are in their music and their career and what led them down that path. And so even just looking at even stories like we'll have Rick and his wife on, and he is a country artist, but then you have where he is the stepfather to her, to where she was single. So then I'm excited for that one as a single parent and everything going on with my lovely child and her discipline. So even just looking at those different aspects of if we had this knowledge or even like this bank of podcasts to pull from when we were younger, even parenting and having those resources and seeing that all walks of life have a survivor story somewhere, and that we all react and are triggered by something along our journey, and knowing and being able to say, well, this is why I am the way I am, but I'm healing from it, or I have healed from it. And then being able to learn from one another is more of what you'll see in our season 2. Yes, there will be survivor stories sprinkled throughout everywhere from human trafficking. But as we always say, when we first started, everyone's a survivor of something and everyone has a story. So we want to share even like the programming and what we were taught when it comes to health and wellness and what that looked like to now technology and health and wellness today and what that really means. And even knowing like the correct nutrition chart and all of that. So taking it back to the root is what we really want to focus on in season 2 and go deeper into the meaning and message behind everything. So that's, and even the ex cop and how we're going to bring her on. I'm excited for that one because she has so many things about what grooming looks like, red flags, and so much education, but it didn't, even though she was in that field, it didn't take her until she had a child to know like, oh my gosh, this is a different level of love, and what it meant for her working in the police with the police force and how that changed her whole perspective on what's going on in the world. So even just looking at those aspects of those careers, or even like nurses and them getting out of that career and having kids and how it was affecting them and their families. So we want to go deeper into the root of things in season 2. So you'll see more of that.
But that's what I love about your show is that, yeah, maybe like you said, the music, they're for people who just thought that trafficking is just the only thing that you focus on. it takes more than just trauma is one part. Learning that is just one part of raising a child. You know, you could have a perfectly happy child, but if you're feeding them McDonald's every day, their body's going to be traumatized from a lack of nutrition. Trauma shows up in so many different ways, and there's so many different things that can impact a child's development, their brain, how their bodies develop, their school relationships, you know, how they get married, how they parent one day. And I love that you guys cover all those bases. You know, the music thing was just awesome. Like, I got introduced to so many artists, and I think that's so powerful for parents learning this and saying, oh my gosh, I'm not hip. I don't know what the new, like, what do I give my child if I don't let them listen to, you know, the newest rap song that's on the top 40 charts? What do I give them in replacement? Because my child's going to be so mad that they have to step away from that artist, you know? And I love that you guys thought of that. And we're like, we're going to get on that, and we're going to give them a whole plethora of artists to follow. And if they follow them, they'll follow other artists, you know, and you guys are setting that up. So every aspect of a parent saying, oh my gosh, now I'm awakened to this. What do I do about it? Mm-hmm. You're awakening them, and then you're giving them that tool to say, here's what you do about it. Here you go. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I think I just can't speak highly enough of the ways that you girls have looked at this, you know, and have analyzed your own homes and said, I wish that I knew this, so I know another parent will wish that they know this. And so who can we bring on to speak on behalf of that? Mm-hmm. That's so neat. And I'm so excited to hear all your new season 2 guests that you guys have on, and to learn stuff that I don't know. You know, it goes for all of us. We all need to learn nutrition, not just kids. You know, like, people might think it's just a parenting show, and it's not. Like, we all can take something from what you girls talk about, and it's amazing. I'm just so freaking proud of you girls. It's so neat.
And same with you. And I think too, a teaser for season 2 for both of our podcasts and all of our listeners for your podcast as well is you'll see more joined episodes, and you'll see a lot of that because as we see more coming to light, and there's some stories that are in mainstream right now, or getting little to none mainstream coverage, or mainstream twisted the story. And so now we're bringing you the truth from what that person originally told the media and how it got spinned off. So even like me and Emma got to do a joint episode where I got to co-host with one of my good friends, Sincerely Collins, and his mom and her stories. So you'll see more joint episodes as we'll touch on headlines and things coming up. So, or even movies, who knows? There's a lot coming to us, as you will see a lot more joined with both of us. And I think too, with that is there's a lot to learn from both of our podcasts. So being able to bounce off of one another and tie in what you're learning from deeper in on the survivor side, and then going, and we try to then say, okay, now how do I parent to this? And what can I change, and how can I get involved in my everyday life based on what was showed on Emma's podcast, or vice versa. So we try to, that's why you might think, and it might look like they're separate, but really that was our ultimate goal, is intertwining them to bounce off one another, to say, okay, here's what's happening. Now, how do I fix this? How can I get involved and change this? So you'll see a lot more of the joint episodes as well for season 2. And a lot of double airs.
Yes. Premieres.
Emma's little fiesta is going. Any other final words for season 2? Or well, as we head into season 2.
Just, I can't believe we've made it a year. It doesn't seem like a year. Some months seem like, oh my God, how did we cram 20 episodes in a week and a half? And then some are like, okay, we have a break. This is awesome. But it's been really fun. And even when we're like, there's times we're like, I don't know anything about this person. And you're like, I don't know how to do an intro. I don't know what questions to ask. And those become some of the best episodes that we do, because they're just authentic and they're real. And the amount of people we've met and the amount of information we've gathered has been awesome. And that's even not knowing what we were coming into for the first year. So I know going into the second year, it's going to be that much cooler because we have a following. We know that there's going to be different people with more information. And so it's just going to be a really cool year. And I'm excited to keep doing it. We've actually had a break for about a month. We haven't recorded anything. This is the first time. And so it's nice to be back in the chair with the video, doing it again. So I'm excited.
And I also just want to compliment your energy together, how you guys it's almost like you guys have this like hidden communication of your own where you guys can read each other. It's like you would think watching your episodes that you guys do talk in depth about, all right, you're going to talk here and you're going to talk here. Because it can be tough whenever you have, 3 people. And you guys do such a beautiful, seamless job of that. And I just want to commend you on that, because that is something that like I've watched single podcast hosts bring on 2 people and it sounds so different. Like they don't know how to interact with 2 separate people, and you guys have that mastered where it's like, we do podcasts with 3 people all the time. Like we can easily have a one-on-one conversation. You make my job look super easy, but you guys just do such an awesome job together and your energy goes so well. And it's like, I love the impact that you guys have on your guests. It's so neat seeing them almost, some of them timid at the beginning or what am I doing? And then by the end, they just blossom, and that comfort that you guys give. It's so neat to see that in your shows. And then just with both of you, seeing where you guys started in the early days to how you guys conduct yourselves and just the flow. You guys are like, I got this. Becky, like 2 minutes before the show is like, oh, I'm going to just write a couple notes down.
An intro.
Yeah.
little did I know my children would be crazy and all over, but that's what we get.
So cute. It was awesome.
Yeah, honestly, the only thing that we do with that is we decided in the very beginning, more so me, is I do not like intros and I get like super like anxiety. Like I will not do intros. I've tried it before, but I'm like, I don't like this. I think I've maybe done 1 or 2 the whole year. I've only done 1 or 2 intros. And that's only because like Becky's like, them better than me. And so because of personal friendships or whatever. So that's really it. And so it just then became with, okay, Becky, you're doing the intro. I'm going to do the close. Yep. And that's how it just flowed. And then I think too, when we first started our podcast, even like the summary of it, like to start our channel, it was actually just Becky. I don't know what I was doing, but Becky just did it. And I was like, cool, that flows. So then it took ownership from there. Becky just got all the intros and then I just got the outro.
Well, now she's like, even if it's personal, she's like, I'll just send you all the stuff I know.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of intros. So who knows? Season 2, you might get a couple, but yeah, that's kind of how we flow with that. And then really like, I don't know, we just pick up on each other or give each other like that look, like
you can see.
You can see. But yeah, we've sometimes had 5 people on at once, which has been interesting. But I still like when we get to have like just us 2 and 1 more person, just because like as we've done like a really big group one, just then going back and bringing them back for another episode, like learning more about that person one-on-one has been like, it's been even cooler because it's like, okay, like you learn a lot more and deeper about one another and just how we bounce off of each other's conversations. And sometimes people are like, how do you know what we're going to talk about? Or we're like, okay, we'll start here and we'll talk about this. And then the conversation goes completely different than what we thought. And we're like, okay, we're just going to go off energy and whatever God puts on our heart that day. And that's what we're talking about. So I think that's been pretty neat to see, is like how we got into some of the conversations that we never even expected. Like we have one coming up with Claudia, Valerie, and her mom, and all the different generations. And then going back to like her parenting style and childhood trauma to like how it affected her kids who are now parenting. And like, it's the coolest episode to see. So that one's coming up as well.
It's really neat watching that. Like you guys, you make it look really easy, and it shows how intuitive you are with not just each other, but with understanding the dynamic of the guest. And you guys are able to communicate with each other silently by picking up on cues and like learning. I know even like the mute button can sometimes, it's like, oh, her screen's unmuted, so maybe she wants to talk. Like there's little things that you also learn on Zoom and using these platforms, but like you really make that transition look so seamless between you two. And it's just neat. It takes a lot of talent to do that. You would guess that you guys have been podcasting for way longer than a year.
Oh, I was like, what is she getting? Plug.
I didn't want it to die before like we get a wrap up.
Nice. Speaking of podcasting and going all over the place, we need a plug.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's honestly been neat to actually, we've seen how much we've grown like from our episode 1 till now. So yeah, we're excited for season 2 and everything that's going to bring. It's actually going to be really weird to like even going back and like changing our like Buzzsprout and everything to season 2. Like I started putting them in the other day and I was like, oh, I need to go back and change all that. So
yeah, a couple of them.
Even that part is going to be different. But
yeah. No, and exciting because of things that we've done on our podcast, we're also branching out and doing other things. Like I know, Bridget, you're looking at doing another podcast and doing stuff like that. I don't know how you have time for that, but good luck to you. No, but doing that sort of stuff. And then like I'm working with my friend Laura and we do Wellness Wednesday and talk about health and her stuff there. And so just branching out, not to change it. Like we're not changing anything. It really is just to expand the circle and people we've met along the way. And the coolest thing for me is it always comes back to Stand By Survivors. Whether it's the podcast or whatever, it always comes back to, hey, and I'm also a co-founder of this organization and here's what we do. And that's where we didn't know at the time, and we had an idea, but we didn't know that the tagline of everyone has a story would be so impactful because everybody has one. And so it's cool. And we get to now do different things. So we're not going anywhere. We're just expanding ourselves.
And with Everyone Has a Story too, and more podcasts. And like, I think too, even as Becky just mentioned, like I'm going to start another podcast. And that one, as me and Emma always joked about like our singleness and like the fun side, like, yeah, you get to see episodes here and there where they're lighter episodes and we get to like kind of relax more on those. And like, you see us be more uppity. So with that is you'll get to hear more about all of us with another podcast, and really just wanted to tie in all aspects of not only our life, but like for me with the new podcast, I want to tie in like the beauty industry and small business owners and like farming and different things like that. So even more on like us and our personal stories and like who we are, and like as you hear bits and pieces, but like even doing the joint episode with Emma, she shared more on like my background with the entertainment industry. So hearing to even Emma and the cannabis industry and seeing it from all industries, and ultimately some way, somehow, symbolism, everything ties back to the children. And
it's all about trafficking.
And trafficking. So it's all money at the end of the day in business. So we want to shed light on all of our personal stories as well, and more on all industries. So that's just another podcast you get to follow too.
So exciting.
So, but yeah, again, thank you, Emma, for co-hosting this one. And
absolutely. Congratulations, ladies. Oh my goodness.
Yay, 1 year.
Yay, to 1 year. And the official 1 year date is April 17th.
Ooh, almost 420.
Right.
We'll just roll it up to 420.
So again, thank you everyone for all your love and support. Without having all of you, we couldn't do what we do and couldn't even grow to, who knew, a year later, and us having a podcast that long, as well as an organization, a merch line, and not only even having our sister podcast with Emma, but then now another podcast, and who knows what the next year will bring and going forward, and who we'll collab with, and everything going down the line. So without all of you and your love and support, we wouldn't get to do all of the amazing things we do, as well as connect with survivors globally and share all the education pieces that we've learned. So yeah, we are definitely looking forward to season 2. And as always, everyone has a story. Together, we must rise for the children. It starts with one person. It starts with you. You're not alone. Survivors, we hear you, we see you, we stand by you. Sending you love, light, and blessings. Thank you all for your love and support. Cheers to 1 year, and can't wait to show you what's in store for season 2. Love the imagination and Save Our Children podcast. See you for season 2.